your time is starting now.
Thank you. Okay, watching everybody go, I've been antsy to get back and see how my little buddies here is doing with me. Hey, partner. Didn't take very long to catch him. I'm glad to see that. So for those of you who didn't see my morning sessions, just kind of as I'm playing with them here, I'll give you a little bit of a recap. In my morning session, I got him really moving around soft on the halter. I was super happy with him here. And I finished with working with the flag. And he was pretty nervy of the flag. So I'm going to finish up with the flag before I go to the saddle. But the first thing I'm going to do is check my ability to get him to follow a feel. And I was talking about that in my morning session. What I mean by follow a feel is the direction of the pull. So with a rein or a halter or anything like that, I want him to really follow the direction of that pull, and I want him to be able to handle pressure. Those are going to be the two things I focus on. Pressure can be anything from asking him to move or the pressures of the saddle or anything like that. I want to make sure he handles all that very, very well. So you'll hear me talk about those two things quite a bit here today. A little stickier here, but that might pay off because I'm wanting to saddle him. So, hey bud. Good boy. Go ahead and check him here on the right eye. We put a lot of emphasis on our halter work in the program my dad's built there. That's kind of what I do with all my horses. And I've had a lot of people come into the booth and I got dad's DVDs in there. They were asking me kind of if you could only buy one, which one. I always suggest the halter work because it's the introduction to how we communicate with a horse through pressure and release. And it really gets a horse soft and handling a bridle, or handling the way a bridle is going to pull. It's been kind of my favorite DVD to promote the most out of because it's something that I use on a day-to-day. Good boy. Just ask him to head the direction of that halter. It's a good man. Good boy. In my first session there, when I started to back him up or move him side to side, what he would do is he would bend his head and he would kind of freeze up in the body. So there, when I see him really free with his steps and following with the face, flag please, thank you. It's making me happy, it's good to see. So for some reason, this kind of was a big thing for him to overcome, and I think we got through it, but this will be a good test. He kind of got to where he wanted to have his back feet talk to that flag, so I'm going to darn sure keep myself safe. I didn't get to talk about it very much because it was happening too fast this morning, so I'll explain to you guys how I would do that. A good way for me to stay safe is instead of trying to get him away from me and try to shoot him out there and then hope he doesn't run into me, I'm going to grab a hold of this halter really secure right here. So the distance of my arm to the halter is what's going to keep me safe. I can kind of keep my arm straight, which is going to hold me off, and that keeps me from getting in a mess. Easy, bud. Good boy. Oh, that's darn sure a lot better. Good man. Good boy. And then just show him it's not going to last forever. Give him a good release there and a good reward for staying with me when he's nervy. All right. Go ahead and try the right. This was our red spot here today, or this morning. He did not like it on this side. So to see him, you could see that he wanted to balk at it. And he didn't take it very far. That shows me that him and I are getting on down the line pretty good. Good boy. It's always good for me that I really try to make myself aware of this, and I really try to stay honest about it, is that if I find something like this flag that was a real hot spot for this colt, that I don't just do it one day and then move on and check it off the list as to say that, oh yeah, I flagged him on Monday, so he should be good. We flagged him. If I don't go back and check it, I'll never know if I'm all the way through it. So I'd continue to work this horse until he was completely okay with it. You'll probably see me do it again tomorrow morning. And if it's not perfect tomorrow morning, I'll do it again tomorrow afternoon. It's just something that if he has a severe problem with it, or if it's something in his mind, I don't want to leave it half done and then find out down the road that I didn't finish what I needed to finish. Good boy, fella. That's about as good as I can ask you to be right there. Can you hand me that curry comb? Thanks, sir. So a curry comb sometimes with colts, if you guys had brushed many, it might set him off a little bit, just make him a little nervy. So I'll just kind of, if he gets nervous, I'll stay with it and make sure that I'm not really grinding it out of him. But I want to make sure when I saddle this horse that he don't have anything in there causing any discomfort riding against the skin underneath my saddle or underneath my cinch. Good boy. It's also a good opportunity to kind of pay attention to how he is around his belly. Hey, maybe not biting, okay? Another good one when you guys are working with young colts is you'll see me keeping a pretty firm grip on this part and trying not to let it get too long. That's just the luxuries of me having a dad for a horse trainer and watching him learn the hard way and me trying not to. I watched him in a demo one time when I was a kid. I was probably only 13, and he was brushing a horse or he was doing something back there, and he had it run through his hand like this, and that horse jumped past him and kicked him somewhere below the belt buckle. And I thought right then and there, I said, I'm never letting that happen to me. His face went red, and the look on his face made me realize I didn't want it to happen either, so I've done my best to try to make sure that don't happen. Not to say it won't, but I'm going to do my best to make sure. All right, bud, you feel good. Okay, so next thing I'll do with this colt, as I'm kind of checking things off the list, I'll keep you guys kind of aware of where I'm headed next and my plan a little bit, is the pad. Now, I just went through everything with this colt with the flag. The same way I took the flag to this horse is the same way I'm going to take the pad to him. And I want to make sure that the pad, again, is done on both sides. Sometimes what I see people do at some colt starting clinics we've been putting on is they sneak the pad on and then they try to throw the saddle on. But if you guys have ever seen somebody throw a saddle on, it's never near as graceful as the pad. So I always make sure that I pad my horses very effectively and make sure that there's no fear and no scoot and no negative opinion of the pad before I grab the saddle. Because if I don't, I leave my horse kind of open to having trouble with the saddle. I might as well take anything I can out with the pad and really just warm him up to that. And I want to make sure that when I'm done with the pad, I pad him as if he was an old broke horse and there's no fear in there. If I'm still sneaking the pad on, that means I am nowhere near ready to grab the saddle. Hey, partner. I rode with a guy in Texas, and I was having trouble getting a horse over the padding issue, and it's probably 13 years ago, I guess. I was still trying to just figure out how to get a saddle on in a hurry, and he was a legend in the horse training world, but what he told me is that I was getting over here to try to sneak it onto him, and he couldn't see what was coming, so when it would hit him, it would freak him out, and then I did it with the pad, and I would do the same with the saddle. So a neat little trick he told me is to make sure the distance between my horse and he has a clear visual of that pad coming at him all the time, so there's no secrets between him and I. And it was something that, you know, if you didn't have a guy there like him or somebody knowledgeable enough to help you, I wouldn't even have never thought of that, because you just don't realize that you're doing it wrong until somebody points it out, I guess. But it sure helped me with saddling my horses.
Yeah, a simple little thing like that when the light bulb goes on, yeah, it makes so much sense, you know.
Yeah, there's a saying that riding by yourself is the worst thing you can do. And it's definitely true, because sometimes Dad will stop by on his clinic run and he'll be like, Cade, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're doing this. No, I'm not. And then he leaves and I'm like, oh, I was doing that. Why was I doing that? Not paying attention. Hey, fella. Now, I know on the right everything is going to be tough, so I shouldn't say everything, like I don't want to make a huge deal out of it. He's not that bad, but you can tell that he's a little more watchy on the right than he is on the left. So I'm going to be aware of everything I ask him to do on the right here for the next few sessions and make sure that I don't leave anything undone on that right side. Good boy. Good boy. Good man. All right, buddy. That was pretty good. Go ahead and try him one more time here to the left, and then I'll test his belly here and we'll get the saddle. I always go through a certain amount of checklist with a colt, but this little fella, he's flying right through them. Good boy. Hey? That's as good as I can ask you to be with that. All right. I'm going to check his belly here with my rope. And what I do is just with my halter shank, I just put it around his belly and I pull it tight a little bit. I take saddling a horse for the first time very, very seriously, because if you skip a step and something goes wrong in the first saddling, sometimes it sticks with that horse a lot longer than we'd like or that we would imagine, because there's something about saddling a horse that's almost like being trapped. You know, once they go to leave and they try to get out from underneath it, it's strapped to them, and sometimes it can cause some serious fear and serious explosion, and a lot of it is based off of the cinch. So if I can get him to where I feel like I got time to do up the cinch before he explodes, and I know that he's not going to jump out from underneath me and that saddle's not going to turn, I feel like I'm giving him the best chance ever. And I try to make sure that with all my horses in that first saddle, I never saddle them before they're ready. When I got that rope around there, it's pretty snug, and then I just move him around, make sure he can move his feet nice and soft, and then I can release that rope. Good boy. Thank you. My wife, she'll start a slow clap for me all the time. Oh, I'll grab my saddle out here first, then I'll go ahead and saddle him. All right, bud. Want to have a look at that? Go ahead. You're going to get a real good look out of it out of the corner of your eye here in a minute. Good boy. Now, you're always a little bit vulnerable when you throw that saddle on. We can't ever have as good a hold as you want on them unless you're strong enough to throw the saddle on one-handed, which unfortunately I'm not. So I want to make sure that I'm as prepared as I can and I'm watching and reading them. And the first time, I want to make sure it gets all the way over him. Sometimes if we're worried about a horse, when we're going to saddle him, what people do is they inch it on there. And then when that horse does something, you're not ready for it. But if I just throw it on him like I meant to, it gives him confidence in me, as well as it keeps me ready for him. I'm not limping through these problems. Hey, fella. All right, give him one more saddle here, and then away we go. Good. Go ahead and saddle him up here to the right, and then I can drop my cinches. Okay. And again, talking about that right side, it'll be important to make sure I accomplish this. I had to go and saddle a bunch of broke horses to the right when I was working for my dad. I had a heck of a time throwing it on there to the right, so I was making colts scared of me. And as you can see, I'm still not the most graceful, but I'm getting better. Good boy. All right, make sure my cinches are going to be long enough. Probably more worried about short enough on you, eh, little guy? Every time someone's about to do up cinches at a trainer challenge, you notice how it gets real, real quiet. All right, make sure I'm set in there really good. Looks like my saddle fits him better than the one last year, so that's nice. All right, bud. Now I always like to try to get enough wraps when I'm ready to do it up that I don't pull it into him tight and then need another wrap. So right here I'm going to check him and see if he gets nervy. And then before I go ahead and cinch it into him, I want to make sure that I don't get halfway done up and realize that something ain't going to fit or something's not going to be ready and then start trying to change things. Now there's a fine line when you cinch up a young horse, because there is the feeling of not wanting to cut one in half. You don't want to pull into him so hard it makes him uncomfortable. There's also the other side of the coin where it's too loose. If it was up to me and somebody asked me that question, my answer would be do it up tight enough it's not going to fall off. And if you're not sure, maybe grab another hole. Too tight in this situation will be better than too loose. There we go. I think I'm good there. Make sure you see my left hand pushing him away from me all the time. He's still wanting to bow away, but he's getting the idea that I don't want him to step on me. There you go, fella. Good man. I might have to grab a different breast collar for my next session. This one looks a little long. A lot long. All right, bud. Yeah, I'm out over there.
It's funny when you get used to riding with a breast collar, you just feel like something's missing if you don't have it on there. But a lot of horses, you certainly can get away without it. Some of them, if they're not used to it, they can get a little sore from it.
You need to, they need to invent a colt breast collar. This one is one that actually fits my colts a little better. I finally got one that wasn't so far from the center ring to the outside ring. Good boy.
So far, so good.
He's a thinker. He's cocked and loaded for sure. He's in this situation, it's really hard for me, or kind of human tendency is to want to push him out and see if he's going to buck. What I'm really trying to show him is that everything I asked for in the beginning, now that I have the saddle on, nothing's going to change. You still have to be soft and you still have to move off of pressure. So all I'm doing is asking him to move away. And when he does, I'm releasing. So if he's a little bit nervous about the saddle, he can find trust and kind of familiarity with me that the same things I've been asking him to do for the last little while are the same things I'm asking him to do with no change from the saddle. I'm still going to build pressure the same way. I'm still going to release the same way. Atta boy. Good boy, man. You're figuring that out.
Standing up in the back, just a little bit.
Just a hair, eh? There's not a grapefruit there, maybe a lemon. Just double check my saddle here, and what I'm going to do now is make sure I have some control of his face, just like I did in the beginning, and then I'll go ahead and turn him loose in here and work on a little bit more sending him around before I call it a day. One thing about when I turn a horse loose in the round pen, sometimes people think, again, it's got something to do with buck. It's something that I like to do to let a horse kind of feel every different piece of the saddle, get out there and turn with the saddle, stop with the saddle, start with the saddle, that type of stuff. And I've had horses before that have hid it from me, and I found it when I was up there, as opposed to just turning them loose.
1 second. Friday's April draw will 50-50 winner is ticket number, it's on a blue ticket, 68138. 6888138.
We win it, Dano? No, we didn't.
How much is
Congratulations.
The rescue booth 100, booth 308. 3808. Thank you.
number of people here? I imagine that'll be a pretty respectable total.
So there you can see that when I ask this horse to speed up away from me there, I start with them taps, and the more I tap on him, the more he kind of gets locked up. So I'm just going to slowly build those taps, take my time, and every time he gabs some speed there, I'm going to go ahead and release. So you see how there he's a little stuck? There he'll grab some speed and I'll back off. This is just my way of helping him get off of my legs before I get on and ride him. I really got to teach him how to move away from pressure, and you'll see that I'll start at my pressure with a lift every time, and I'll release every time he moves, and I always start at a 1. So I give him lots of time. See how he's getting nervous of that? Build a little bit, build a little bit. There he really speeds up, and then I can let go. All I'm trying to do there again is talking about how I teach a horse how to handle that pressure. So when I get on him, if I start kicking on him and asking him to move around, it's nothing new. Same pattern. Good boy. Anybody who started any number of colts or enough colts to know is that one that won't move is way harder than one that wants to run off. Run off is something that it don't take long to teach a horse. You know, you guys get on the same page about feel. It's when one doesn't want to move that they're usually the hardest to ride, and that's usually when you get in a wreck. Good boy. Good boy. All right, he's ready to be turned loose here and see how he does with that saddle. See if he's hiding anything, thinking I'm going to get on him. Saving the good stuff for later. You little guy. Just double check before I turn him out. I don't want him to end up in any kind of a wreck. All right, Junior, go out there and be noticed. It's hard to get mad at him when he wants to stay. Follow that there, bud. It's nice to see him get out there and right away wanting to put that head down. He's really going to feel that cinch when he puts his head down. I guess when he puts his head down soft like that, sometimes when they put their head down, it's not a good thing. But
Yeah.
right there, that one I liked.
Quite a difference.
All right, I'm going to need my lunge whip. He's getting sticky. Maybe I should explain that. It's kind of a common term around horse trainers, but when we stay sticky, the only thing I'm talking about is when I add pressure, he doesn't release from that pressure. He wants to kind of stay, he's almost really balled up. So when I'm talking about sticky, or if you hear me guys say, or hear me say that throughout the weekend, what I'm talking about is that it kind of gets back to that handle and pressure thing, is that I add pressure, and instead of smoothly moving away from that pressure, almost like a gas pedal in a pickup, what he does is the more pressure I add, the tighter he gets. And that would be kind of my definition of sticky anyhow, and that's what I want to see change here. So with my lunge whip, it gives me a little more direct pressure, I guess, towards him, and then my taps will build the same all the way 1 through 10.
There's a little lick and chew going on there, Katie, and there's lots of theories
Good
about
boy.
what that means and what it indicates.
I can give you my theory on it is, I feel like when that happens, they just release tension. There might be a more scientific version of it, but I'm not very scientific. So my theory is if you're driving down the road on really, really bad roads, you know, you're just tense, and then you hit the good roads and you go, oh man, that was brutal. That moment when you let out, I think you just let go of that tension, and that's what causes a lick and chew. So that's my kind of farmer version of the lick and chew. It's my theory on it.
I think that's probably as close as any of them. Another one is that he's making the switch from the reactive to the thinking side of his brain, and that
Left to right brain, yeah, for sure.
he's got to swallow a little bit as he does that.
I heard Rod saying releasing endorphins, or was it Rod? Or no,
Right.
Dale.
Yeah.
One of you guys I heard saying that today, and I agree with that. It's just, and then the idea of the releasing the endorphins is just I guess the most important word there for me is the release. They just let it go. So regardless, I guess, one lady kind of had a good explanation for it at a clinic with me, and she said, I don't really care what it means. She says, I just know they're doing better. And I was like, you know what, that is exactly right. If they're licking and chewing, you're probably doing all right. So she said she didn't need my explanation. She just needed to know it was good. You know, he's still, if you guys watch him move around, he's definitely not freed up, but there's not a whole lot to complain about with the horse that I saddled. Well, he would know, but close to 4 minutes ago. I feel like he's doing quite well. So there I just backed off for a second, just kind of letting him have a moment there. And then when he changes eyes, it's going to give me an excuse to start again. But I think that, for instance, if you couldn't label this colt as a bucker, but if you're not paying attention, this colt would buck you off, would be the best way to put it. So you can see he's definitely tight in the back of the saddle, and my back cinch is too big. I'm going to have to switch that out for my next session and make sure he gets a good feel of that back cinch. That'll probably bring more out of him, but for right now, what I want to do is just get back to the two things that I'm really focusing on. That was super nice. Made a liar out of me, that a boy. Keep doing that. Do you guys see what I mean there with the free up? He finally just let it go and kind of let him travel. Thank you. I really feel like the more a horse can read the play, the more a horse will free up, or the more a horse will release or lick and chew. Is if you kind of, I talked about this with the guy at my booth there before my session, is that the idea of consistency for years has been, you got to ride him every day to get him better. You know, riding him every day is definitely going to make him better, but the way you ride them being consistent, I think, is just important as how many days you ride them. If you just kind of change your plan every day and certain things are important some days and not other days, and you're kind of all over the place when you do ride them and you're different every time, I think that is almost just as detrimental as not riding. So the more you can be the same and figure that out is try to stick on something and stay till you get it type of thing. The consistency in what you're asking is really important. Good man. All right, I'm going to go ahead and switch direction here. Let him feel that other eye. Get a good chance to kind of push him through this gate here. Attaboy. Pretty mover. Thank you. Attaboy. Just don't stop at the gate anymore. He always wants to come to me, but you think it's because I'm at the gate? No, he's a pretty good boy. He was looking for me.
Pretty nice this year. We've got 3 really nice colts and 3 best hands you can find in this country. So happy when I saw the lineup that was here this year.
I was too. I was fortunate enough that I've competed against Dale before and I've competed against Rod. So when I saw the lineup, I was like, this is going to be fun.
We've had lots of big name, high profile trainers from the States over the years, but I'll tell you, these 3 guys stack up absolutely as well as anyone.
Okay, thank you. So, every bit of me right now wants to get on this colt. And I'd probably be okay with it. I don't think that I'd be rushing it too bad, but there's certain things I still see out of him that I want to change. So I'm not going to sit here and go at him with a bunch of halter work and a bunch more, I guess you'd call desensitizing. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to teach him more things that I need on the ground here. And what I'm trying to do is just save me some horse for tomorrow. Saturday is always a really big day at a trainer challenge. And there's a lot of things I wanted to get through. So you can see I got the bridge out here. I wanted to kind of get through some obstacles, more or less just to get a read on how he's going to handle that and whether he's going to be nervous. If he's good with obstacles, I can go ahead and move along. But as much stuff as I can get done on the ground and as many new things as I can teach him, I really try to do that as much as I can, because the pattern of how I teach a horse to do something is important as what I'm teaching him to do it. So anything I teach him on the ground, I'm going to teach him the same way when I ride him. So the better he is with patterns when I get on, I think the easier life is going to be. So we'll go ahead and just play with some of this stuff. And I just want to see if I can get him to follow me up onto the bridge, accept some of these obstacles. You can see he's not going to be tough, but it'll be a good moment for us to have here. Good boy. One thing we do a lot of obstacle clinics, it seems like, but one thing I always tell people when they're putting a horse on an obstacle is when he touched that thing, right away he panicked and wanted out of there. If I would have, pulled on him and forced him to stay on the obstacle, it would have been tough for me to ask him to go on again. So at the beginning here, all I'm asking for is effort, and effort's going to kind of outweigh everything else. If I get him to keep trying, the more he steps on it and kind of overreacts, the more he's going to realize he's overreacting. And again, talking about the rest of the obstacles, good boy. The rest of the obstacles that I got to get this horse through this weekend is, if my only goal is to get him on the bridge, and what I'm going to do is do some things that maybe I don't feel is right to get him on the bridge, or hustle him over that bridge and maybe not teach him how to accept it. If I put him over the bridge correct, I feel like that's going to help me get him over the noodles, which if you guys were here last year, I don't like the noodles as much. But it's going to help me down the road the next time I ask him to do something he's scared of. Atta boy. How you feel about all of it? Haha, pretty close. Not what I was looking for, but that'll do. That's a good boy. Good boy.
15 minutes left, okay? 15.
Hey. Got a little stuck there, Junior. And this will kind of happen with young horses, is that you put them into a situation like that bridge, and then I think there all he was doing is he was just thinking about the bridge. It was the only thing he had on his mind, so when I had to ask him to move, he just kind of bowed into me a little bit and wasn't paying attention. I just had to kind of remind him that bridge or not, riding or not, obstacle or not, my hands are always going to help you through the situation. So try to keep a good read on where my hands are telling you to go, and you'll never get in trouble. There, you see him really want to come through me. As soon as I ask him to change direction, his steps, all 4 feet come at me. So I'll just remind him to respect my personal space here, fella. And this might be a good time to go into ground tie. So looks like he needs it. I'll go ahead and talk you guys through how I'm going to teach it. When I teach a horse to ground tie, the only thing that tells him to ground tie would be, sorry fella, you got to quit that, would be my rope on the ground. I try to make sure that I have one thing that teaches my horse to ground tie, not 3 or 4 or 5, and what I mean by that is hand commands, voice commands, things like that. Some people's horses do really well with it, but I find it's hard for a horse to read all of them. So what I see a lot of times with ground tie is stay, easy, hey, stay, and we just keep asking him. What I'm going to do with him is I'm going to back him up, I'm going to drop the rope on the ground. If he walks off, I'm going to back him up again, then I'm going to drop the rope on the ground, and I want him to notice me dropping the rope on the ground and start to realize that that means to stand still, and from then on, it's a really easy command. So I'll back him up, drop the rope, walk away, back him up, drop the rope, walk away. Now you can see that right now he's not looking to read the play, and he don't know that that's what I want. So all I need here is talking about that consistency again, is if I do the same thing over and over and over again, he's going to figure it out. So I just got to give him time to understand it as opposed to just thinking about the ground tie itself. I'm more concerned with how he's going to figure out ground tie. Another question that I think always needs to be asked or answered, depending on if you're a trainer or a customer, is how long do you back them up? It's a common question that should be addressed. It's the same as any discipline. For me, when I back him up till he's correct in the backup every time. I never leave him in a bad frame of mind in the backup. So a good kind of sign that he's in a bad frame of mind, bad in the face, sticky, circling around me, not wanting to move his feet, really bracy, that shows me he's in a bad frame of mind, so I need to keep going until that gets better, and then I can go ahead and try again. If he's in a bad frame of mind after the correction, he won't do it well. Good thing we got 15 minutes.
Actually, you got 11 and a half.
It's kind of an I told you so moment. Now the importance here is when you see it's taken me longer than maybe I thought it was going to, which is fine, but don't get discouraged and change what you're doing. Otherwise, the last little while that I had done kind of goes out the window. If I don't stay the same and I start changing what I need to just get ground tie, what I do is I cut his effort short and I take away the pattern that I really need him to learn on. I want him to read the play like we talked about. One thing that is a big positive, if you guys are really reading him right now, is how sweet he's being in the backup. He is softer in the backup now than my horse was last year in the finals. Pretty close. Shows me I'm on the verge. You see him think about it. He's like, all right, what I'm doing ain't working. So maybe I need to try something else. Maybe if I just stand here, when he comes back to back me up, he'll find me here and just leave me alone. All right, bud. Easy, bud. Don't step on that. It'll be a good moment for us when we finally get it. Like right there. Sometimes the claps help. That one almost hurt me there, folks. I appreciate it, don't get me wrong. Good boy. Then I can go ahead and, now I want him to be very visual about me picking this rope up and walking off. See him kind of tentative to where before he was almost running into me when I'd walk off. Good man. Right on, thank you. Shelly's back. Okay, so as my session starts to dial down, 8 minutes, less?
9.5.
Ooh, I'm getting good.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty close.
Getting close, yeah. What I want to make sure I'm going to do before I end this horse, I feel like I got kind of teaching one how to learn. I was talking about that this morning. That ground tie I think was going to be a cool thing for us to go ahead and move along. So you can see now I'm just going to go at these stirrups. And the idea of me going at these stirrups like this is making sure that any kind of fear or anything he has for the saddle is gone today. So when I go home to the hotel tonight and I go to bed, I can rest easy knowing that my horse is not still scared of the saddle or that I didn't miss a step as far as saddling. Come in the morning and I feel like I should be able to go for a ride on this colt. So I just want to make sure that I cover my bases and I don't leave anything in there that's going to surprise me in the morning. Now that, not to say I don't saddle him tomorrow and find something else, but I'd want to do my best to make sure I did everything I can for him. And buy a new back cinch. You probably got a smaller one in the trailer, don't you, Rhett? Them little sheep rope horses you ride, they probably got a short one. Good boy. And a lot of times in this situation, you know what creates fear out of this horse right now, or creates that movement or that look in his eye? My theory on it is that if you were a horse and you walked out here and say that, you know, you didn't speak English and you didn't see me explaining it, you would think this guy is just telling that horse to move, and then 5 minutes later he tells him to stand still, and then 5 minutes later he tells him to move. He's got to really see the difference of when somebody's asking him to move and when somebody's not asking him to move. And that's what I'm trying to teach him through doing this. You see how there's no energy in my body? I'm not sending him a direction. My hand's not telling him to go anywhere. That's how he starts to realize to read the play, to see when that pressure's coming on and to see when that pressure's off. That's how he's going to learn that I don't want him to move just because the saddle's making a bunch of noise, or I don't want him to move through certain situations. Good boy, little fella. Thank you. Another good one I can do here is teach a horse how to hold my weight when I'm going to get on. You can see there I can move his feet. So all I'm going to do is just hold that horn away from me and then hold that horn towards me till that horse there will stand up on that left leg and really hold that weight. What this is going to do is allow me to stand in that stirrup without him getting bobbly or wobbly. And just let him feel that cinch take a hold of him, and there, stand up straight and strong. Good man. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to get the bridge a little sharper here. I know I left a little bit undone there. Everything else feels good. So I'm going to move him away from me because his first reaction on that bridge is to come towards me. Now you see him really stuck there. 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 Attaboy. Not towards me, always away. Okay, I'll go ahead and try him again. Good boy. There, you see when he come off, his first step was away. That's doing the math, partner. Good boy. Okay. Put him up here and let him rest on there for a sec, and then I think go ahead and pull the saddle off of him. How you feel about hanging out there for a sec? Hey, bud?
Are you going into Pro-Am Youth Challenge tonight, Kate?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's going to be fun. 7 o'clock it starts.
I met some kids today that have been doing online video coaching with my dad, and they're in it. So
Oh, man.
secretly, if you're wondering, I hope I draw those kids because we probably ride the same teacher. Last year, one of my lesson kids drew a different trainer. He drew Alex, and then Alex won it. I was like, oh, that's a nice horse you drew. I know that little girl. He's like, that is a really nice horse.
That's entertaining, boy.
Yeah.
Challenge.
I was hoping last year that Mike Beers was going to get the English saddle.
Remember the year Pat Corelli was in it? Oh, man. Talk about competitive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, bud. I always try to remind myself that, you know, my sessions are no more than just a day at home. My first trainer challenge I did, I made a lot of mistakes, and they were all based off of trying to get to a certain place in a day as opposed to realizing to wait for my horse. And one thing I always think about at the end of my sessions, or I'll go and I'll talk to my wife about it back at the booth, is how would I feel if me and that horse just had a day at home? Would I have done more, or would I have done less? Or is there something I wish I could have addressed more if I had more time? I'll tell you right now with this horse, that session I just had with him, as far as where he come through all that stuff and how he let me talk to him and where he's at and where I'm leaving him, I'm really excited. So if I was to rate him there, that was about as good as I can ask this little guy to be. The mistakes he makes are really honest. You know, he's not out here to get me or to make things harder on me. And once he knows, he's usually pretty good about staying good. So really nice horse. Sometimes they help you out by stepping on the rope. Good little man. Thank you. Good boy. Okay. What do I got for time here, Hugh?
We have 2.5 minutes.
I can probably get the left front done.
We should have said, how much time do you think you have?
Just gonna stay with him here for a second. Now, if he really wants to fight, I want to find a good place to quit him. He's pretty good with his feet, though. They must have a pretty good farrier. Huh? Huh? Where's Rod? Yeah. Good boy.
See, Rod's wearing the same shirt that he is in his picture in the show guide. That is a good picture of all three of you guys in the show guide. Just real nice portraits. I don't know who really did all of it. Well, I guess a Photoshop.
I didn't know we sent a picture.
Oh, you said it.
Yeah, I didn't know. All right, guys, that's good for us. I don't know where we're at for time. We've got to be close. My horse is good. Thank you very much. See you guys tomorrow.
And Katie, thank you so much. Tomorrow morning in here at
Okay, we just finished our second session with Jax here at the main event, and he was perfect. We got him moving out really nice. We got him saddled, got him following a feel and soft on the halter, got some ground tie and over the bridge, and couldn't ask for a better session. Can't wait for tomorrow. He's going to be a fun horse.